Welcome to the I Fired My Boss Franchise Podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
And I'm Christian Dadulak, top franchise consultant and co-founder of Real Franchising, a leading franchise consulting firm. And together, we're on a mission to help people fire their boss, hire themselves, and live the American dream through franchise ownership.
And we're live with the I Fired My Boss Franchise Podcast with my co-host Christian Dadulak and me, Dan Claps. Got a special guest here today, but before we introduce him, Christian, how are you doing?
Good, man. Went to a comedy show over the weekend, saw Andrew Schultz live in Phoenix, which was pretty cool, and got some Korean barbecue last night, so I'm starting Monday off pretty well here.
Oh, very nice.
Yep. How about you, man?
Yeah, good weekend. Was home. Did a lot of catching up, reading, working out. It was pretty plan-free weekend, which was nice. But well, let's get into it. Excited about this episode. We've got a Voda franchise owner, franchise partner on, Travis Paeth. He's joining us from Texas. What's going on, Travis?
Thank you guys for having me. Excited to join you guys today.
Yeah, we were looking forward to it. Outside of we had a little bit of link issues there getting on. I always feel like technology with these podcasts is hit or miss, but glad we got it together. And to start the show, would love, Travis. Obviously you're part of Voda. You're doing this, as one of your investments and businesses. But maybe you could just kind of take us through, your career, what got you into franchise, and what got you into Voda, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally I wanted to be a professional hockey player. I played hockey in school, and figured out basically like 2 weeks into college that professional hockey was probably not going to happen. But finished school and then came out of school from Western Michigan and went right into the logistics industry. It was pretty much one of the only industries hiring in like 2010 or so. And was lucky enough to kind of join a startup 3PL with a bunch of, very similar young, hungry, competitive college kids, and was there from, startup mode all the way through a large acquisition until about 2018. And I basically got an MBA in life. I got to do a lot of stuff that I was well underqualified for. Got to work with a bunch of Fortune 500 companies really early on in my career and learn a ton about, customer service, just daily execution, just constant customer service, customer engagement type stuff that I think has helped me a ton in my career. And so after that, I took some time off and learned a little bit more about the technology world, and was kind of a consultant, if you will, for a couple smaller logistics companies until I decided to jump into like another full-time opportunity. And I was very thankful to meet a group of guys down in Austin that were doing something similar to that I had done, but just like a rocket ship group of really smart people that has been incredible to work with. And they've given me an incredible opportunity, and we are building a very, very cool 3PL down in Austin called Arrive Logistics. And I've learned a ton from this group, and I think about halfway through, maybe like during COVID, if you will, I was just like, I'm learning so much. I want to, at some point in my career, be able to, kind of own my own business. And, my parents were both serial entrepreneurs. They built an amazing company back in the Midwest, in the healthcare space, basically from nothing to a multi-unit regional physical therapy company that was very successful. And, my whole childhood was helping support their their growth and their business, and learning about, the work ethic, but also the time it takes, the sacrifices you have to make to build a successful company. You literally, eat it, breathe it, and that's your DNA. And so it's always kind of been a part of, what I wanted to do at some point. And I found, through some long nights on the internet, just that the franchise route was probably the best way for me to do that with my current work situation. I have an incredible team in the current company that I'm with. And, being a part of that is something that we're going to see through to the end and beyond. But, I figured the franchise route was a perfect blend of, being able to jump in with a lot of support around you, and be able to get a lot of that tough early work, the support that comes with it, out of the way, that would enable me to have enough time to actually do this, while still working. So, I met the Voda team and Dan, and through some cold feet conversations too, Dan and Zach, kind of convinced me to jump in, and I've been super, super happy with that decision. I've had a blast so far. I'm obviously new to the industry and then new to being a franchise owner, but it's been an absolute blast to be a part of.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, just to jump to my first question, and by the way, you can say whatever you want. Don't feel like good, bad, and the ugly. Like, how's that transition? Like, obviously working a job, running your business, you got a family at home, young family. Like, walk us through, like, what's that look like day to day?
A lot of time management, a lot of the late nights. So I have 3 kids under 5. We just finished building a house. And then we're still, my 8 to 5 every day is this awesome logistics business in Austin. And so I basically figured out ways to balance my time with very early mornings and very late nights. But I think most importantly, in order for us to be successful and be able to do that, is I hired some really good people to kind of run the day to day for me. My job as a owner is to just give them what they need to be successful. And so my focus is on creating opportunities, making it easy for them to have access to opportunities, and making sure they have all the tools and equipment and resources they need to do what they need to do. And grow this business. And so literally it's instead of, playing golf and all that other kind of stuff that I would like to do, my hobby is this business. And it's not a hobby. It's something but that's kind of how I think of it from a time management perspective, is like, I'm putting every extra minute I have into this. And I have an incredibly supportive wife, Christine, who's, helps a lot with, some of that stuff too during the day. And so we've kind of tag teamed this and the kids, and it's been a blast. So it's pretty incredible what you can do with the minutes in the day once you realize how many minutes in the day you waste, if you just have a game plan for basically every hour of the day.
Yeah. So. It really is true, right? Like, for me, it's interesting. I'm posting on social media a lot more content, but I'm on social media at the least I've ever been. I go on LinkedIn once a day. I used to be addicted to checking it. I like to see what's going on. I check Facebook, Instagram, and then I look at the phone, because data's everything. I'm seeing how much my screen time went down. You waste time on that. You waste time on, some of the social stuff that you think you have to do, that you don't have to do. But for you right now, it's like family, your business, and your main business, and then Voda, and like that's it, right? Maybe some working out in there.
That's literally it. Yeah, I have kid family time carved out, which has been good. Me and my wife balance that, and then but yeah, literally it's early morning Voda, go to work, kid time when I get home, until they go to bed, and then more Voda, and even some work that I didn't finish up throughout the week. But if you work efficiently, it's easy to do. I mean, it's not easy to do, but and just proactively scheduling your days and weeks, and to make it all work. So it's been really fun. It's really been you start to realize pretty quickly, like, okay, I can do this. This is how I have to do it, but this, you can do it. And, but that is about, I'm out of time. I would say that I don't have many extra days in the week to do anything else, unfortunately, but I'm really enjoying it. So, it to each is their own, right? Like, if you're having a good time doing it, it doesn't feel like work. So it's been a blast.
Yeah. And for those of you that are new listeners, maybe Voda is a cleaning and restoration franchise. And so obviously, Travis, you're not the one doing the restoration jobs. You're not the one sucking out the water. You're not the one doing the actual cleaning. So when you say you work on your Voda business, early morning, late at night, what does that work look like? Like, what are you doing exactly?
It's a lot of, planning for the team, like helping them set up their week, helping them, follow up on leads that maybe they didn't have time to follow up with during the day when they were out working. A lot of, I'm working most of the time now on, okay, how do we expand? Making sure we get, have enough liquidity to expand thoughtfully. And then, commercial partnerships. I think with this industry, the residential stuff is awesome, I think, but, to build like a really like bulletproof, sustainable business, you need those commercial relationships that are going to keep you busy on a monthly basis. And so, a lot of my weekends have been going out to see potential commercial clients, touring some of their spaces, talking to them about things that we can do for them, making ourselves available for them when opportunities, maybe on the restoration side pop up. And so a lot of that has been like, kind of networking and, on-site conversations with those people. I think in a lot of cases, obviously, meeting face-to-face, showing up on the weekends, stuff like that is ways to kind of set yourself apart from other people. But also, I can do that. So my guys, if they need a break on the weekends, they can take that and we can kind of, share some of those responsibilities. So that's a lot of what I've been doing now. It's been better than expected when it comes to that kind of stuff, just because most of the clients we're talking to, they're open on the weekends. They're busy too. They're also small businesses. So, access to them has been easier than I thought.
Did you just walk in and introduce yourself? Do you have prior relationships? I mean, what does that look like?
Some of those are warm, but some of those are door knocking. Some of those are like, when you get into the industry, you start to open your eyes a little bit and you're like, oh, we can do that. We can make that look better. That looks like it needs some help. And just through local business development, just normal conversations with people and managers, like there's been some cool opportunities. I've actually, kind of gone back through some of our residential leads that have been customers too, and jobs that we've done and started to kind of open up doors that way commercially as well, just because they've had some touches with us.
So just to kind of walk through that. So what does that look like from an org standpoint? Like, you own the company, and then what is the org chart?
My wife is so I'm doing, think of it more or less like CEO, COO type responsibilities all rolled up into one. And then anything that comes into our domain, which is our CRM, like our relationship management and execution software, like that's my project manager's territory. So anything that comes into the system, like he owns that. Anything that's scheduled and booked, that's our lead technician, is doing the execution of those opportunities. But yeah, my job and, my wife's job, and sometimes shared, is more of the finance, but also, just lead generation, and creating opportunities for the team. And then once those opportunities are created, my team closes them and executes them. It's kind of the org chart today. We're still really small, but as we expand, I think some of those responsibilities will be split up a little bit more, but in current state today, that's kind of how we're operating.
Makes sense, because there's obviously a huge buzz a buzzword in franchising. Everyone likes to talk about semi-absentee. And, there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. And I think it is possible. I think that there's some people that, like to poo-poo on the idea of being semi-absentee. But, I mean, it can be done, and you're clearly doing it. It's just a matter of setting it up the right way and just knowing what it's going to take and just having the infrastructure in place with the right team. And so, so did you start with, I imagine you have like a general manager in place. Is that true? Or how does that work?
Yeah.
Do you have someone that's doing full-time sales? I mean, what does that look like?
So I think just from my background, if like you set up the right lines of communication and the right infrastructure around everybody, like it should be very executable, especially when you establish those set of responsibilities. Now, I think the beautiful thing about a franchise is that a lot of the, demand generation is right there and available to you, especially with, marketing and the fantastic team that we put together at Voda. Like it's pretty easy to get going with that. And so just setting up all those channels efficiently. And so they're easy for our team to see and touch and grab when they come in, I think is huge. But I think the other thing is, I set it up so we have a project manager today, and that's really on purpose, right? It's like, I don't want that person to be my general manager yet, because I want them to manage the clientele that's coming into his domain, which is our CRM, and closing those deals, setting up those deals correctly, scheduling them, and then letting our technician execute those. And so it's basically, and keep the demand generation to me and my wife, so they can, with the lean team, like if we put too much on him right away, I feel like we're gonna fail, especially when you have a really, really small group. And so that's what I wanted to do. And then, I think with that being said, right, like it probably comes at the expense of OpEx, just because, you're probably paying a little bit more for those channels to create that demand versus like having a full-time salesperson who's calling and outbound all day long. But what I'm trying to do with the lack of time that we have is really focus on my network in Austin, high potential, high impact type customer opportunities that could lead to reoccurring. And I think if you set up one or two of those for a small business, I mean, that could literally be a game changer for you, as they get started. And so I think the other thing too that's exciting about restoration specifically, like one of those opportunities can basically set you up to really expand pretty rapidly if you hit one of them out of the park, just because of the potential upside there too. So I think combination of all that different stuff, the business model, the cash flow that it creates, those are the things that I think make it work in current state today.
So something I hear a lot, and I'm a franchise advisor, so I help people identify the right franchise opportunities. Of course, huge fan of Voda, especially knowing Dan and knowing the leadership team over there and what they've been able to build. But one thing that I'll hear often is there's a lot of competition, right? There's the Serve Pros of the world that are out there. There's Paul Davis. There's other restoration franchises out there. And so I think a lot of people, especially if they're coming in with kind of a scarcity mindset a little bit, and they don't realize how big the restoration industry is, they go in a little bit worried about their ability to find clients. Has that been a huge issue for you? And how do you stay competitive against some of those guys?
No, it's definitely very competitive. I think, again, kind of going back to being able to set it up correctly. So like we're first to touch. And so like first to respond, first to get on site. Some of those things that kind of help you overcome the competitiveness, that reaction time, I would say, I think that's the name of the game, number one. But number two, there's a lot of ways to create that access, but also at the same time, there's still so much that goes to go around. Think of it, like, there's all these like local, and then you have the national franchises that you're competing against. But at the same time, there's still room for us. I think the area that we're in, there's like 500,000 people within a 15-mile radius that we can touch and be to within 20 minutes at the most, right? And so I think there's a lot of that to go around, but also just being available is part of the game, I think. And I think in a lot of cases, when you're young and small, we can be available pretty much whenever time anybody wants. And most of our business has been stuff that people haven't been able to get to. And I think that goes to show you just kind of what the overall demand is like just little us just jumping in, starting day one, like we're touching and grabbing. And I think the other piece too is like we're able to recognize that it's not just about that one opportunity, that one job, and it's over. It's like, how can we keep using those people, ask the right questions, to use their network to find more opportunities? Hey, if they have a good experience for us, they can recommend us. I mean, both of one of the more recent commercial opportunities that we just got was through a $250 cleaning job that the customer was so happy with. We turned out to be, a multi-location, reoccurring business opportunity for our team. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is just like, if you can recognize the opportunity, but get there and you're responsive and you do a great job of what you have, like that your network just naturally grows. So.
Our business, Christian, is interesting because, what I love about this business is the average ticket. A restoration job can be fairly large, and then one job can change your whole month, right? One large job can be an absolute home run. You obviously want to focus on hitting your singles and your doubles, but then you hit a home run and it can completely change your month. Now, the negative to restoration is a lot like anything else, long sales cycle. In this case, not a long sales cycle. You close the job pretty quickly, actually, but the payment takes some time. But, what I love about it is that, as Travis mentioned, like you could spend a lot of energy, time, money, resources on getting a job because it's going to have enough, revenue to justify the marketing spend or the salesperson spend, et cetera. I think that's so interesting. Like if I was in the gym business and my customer lifetime value was $600, I only have a small amount of dollars to utilize. But in our business, you could spend a little bit more on what you call your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, because the jobs are more money. And quite frankly, I think that's what lends our business to be able to be, what you would call manage the manager or semi-absentee. The margins are there to be able to, let's face it, it's a franchise. You got to pay a royalty. You got to pay, brand fund. You got to pay the cost to run the business. You need a payroll. You need a GM, right? But we chose restoration because the margins were there and the average unit volume was there. To be able to start out right away with the team like you're doing. Now, obviously, you're forward investing. Obviously, you're investing into the business and you're building that infrastructure. But I love restoration because it's unlike some smaller average ticket businesses where you probably need to start a little bit leaner. Our best franchise owners are like Travis, where they're putting the money in and they're understanding like, hey, I don't need to make $1 today, right? I want to be looking toward the future, and so it's so interesting. Like you'll have to ask me in 24 months who we like better, franchise owners with jobs or without. I tend to think having a job is actually, as long as it's flexible and you're not able to answer anything, I think it's better because Travis is thinking about 6 months, a year from now, 5 years from now, not just today, which I think is helping you a lot, man.
Yeah, and I think too the cleaning business is like, I think of it like it's a great way for our team to get in people's doors, in the community. It's natural business development. It helps us build out our, perfect our process. It's a lot easier to make a mistake and learn from, a $200 carpet cleaning job than, a $100,000 water loss that, someone's home is literally going to live or die based on the way that you execute on that work. Right. And so I think it just is it's a very nice mix of, the ability to make money now, instant gratification, process perfection, and then honestly cash flow too with the cleaning business. And then, you have that longer term, higher yielding restoration business that can make the business extremely profitable if you do it well. So it's a super nice complement to each other, and also everybody needs both. At the end of the day, in some cases, I unfortunately that the restoration stuff comes at in a tough situation for most customers, but the fact that we can service both, that we can handle both, we can protect their assets, but also maintain their assets at the same time is, I think, a very unique value prop that really drew me to Voda. And so I'm having a blast doing it.
So obviously you're newer. Voda itself is a newer franchise, but where do you see this thing going? Where do you want to go? Obviously, you have Franchise Playbook as the parent company. I know there's opportunity there. Where do you want this to go? What are your goals? I mean, do you want to build like an empire? I mean, what is it's a cheesy question. Everyone asks it, but what's the 5-year game plan, man?
I think I think there's so much growth opportunity for what we're doing now. I think I could spend the next 5 years with my team building out a very successful and large business here in Austin. I think for the home services space, my lean would be continue to stay local. I think being local, being able to touch, see, and be there is really important to that industry, not just cleaning and restoration, but you just got to be there to be successful, in my opinion. But with that being said, it could be continuing to add things here, or I'm really liking this space. It's very similar to logistics. It's quick, it's fast, things change. Every day is different. I love that about this industry. My team loves that too. I call them they're storm chasers. They love, reacting to things and answering the phone late at night, and not everybody likes doing that. And so, I think being in Austin, continuing to grow here would be probably my lean now. But I do think, within Voda, there's a ton of opportunities in other areas. I think, there's some expansion opportunities that could be possible just once I have, more experience doing what I'm doing. But for right now, we're going to stick to building a really cool business here in Austin and invest here for this foreseeable future.
No, I love it. I mean, I think there's so much opportunity. I think you're in a great market too. Obviously, Austin's booming, so that's awesome.
I agree.
Going back to the beginning a little bit. So obviously, you're in a good place now. You like where you're at with Voda, it seems. What made you choose Voda in the first place? I mean, you've touched on a couple of reasons, but I mean, were you looking at other options? How did you find Voda? How did you conduct due diligence on it to make sure it was the right fit? All that stuff.
So I had probably about 6 months of looking at different companies and then learning about the investment kind of profile to get started. And then I'm a big Twitter guy, and I randomly I'm not very extroverted. So it takes a while for me to warm up to people and get in the circle of trust, if you will. And I don't like asking people for things, but I reached out to Brian Beers randomly on Twitter one night, and I was like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? He seemed like a very accessible guy to talk to. So I had a phone call with him, and he made some recommendations to me. And, for whatever reason, Voda stood out to me. I honestly, I think the branding is phenomenal. And then I met Dan. Dan was actually for something else. He was in Austin and in town, and I went over and met him. And I think we got along very well. I felt like I was trying out for him because I didn't know how all this stuff worked, and so I was trying to get him to obviously believe in me and want me to be a franchisee of what he was doing, because he seemed like he was on a mission to find the right people that fit the mold for what they're doing. And I really liked of all the ones that I talked to or looked at, I kept coming back to Voda. And then I met Dan, and that kind of sealed it for me. And then right towards the goal line, when it was time to like sign and close, like I got super cold feet. I'm like, what am I doing? I have 3 kids under 5. My wife's going to kill me. I already work a lot. Like, this is just a terrible idea for right now. And talking to Dan and Zach, like I felt a lot better about it. And I think everybody that I've talked to is like, there's never a perfect time. You just got to do it. And if you believe in yourself and that's ultimately what you want to do, like you got to just say yes and take the leap. So I did it. And I'm very glad that I did.
Yeah, we're super connected, like as a company, Christian. Like we talk on multiple times a week. We have Teams messages flying out all across the system every day, even on weekends. It's very much a hyper connected community, and so we try really hard to pick, and people pick us, and then we pick them, right? So we try to on our end pick people that feel like are going to fit our culture and our core values, and really like the mission that we're on, which really is to elevate the standards of an industry where those standards are pretty low, right, in the restoration space. And so we can make all the systems that we want. We could do all the things and talk about all these things. But if we don't have great operators who are obsessed over the customer in their market, then we'll never be at the level that we want to be, right? And so like Travis can recruit great people because leaders recruit great people, right? Great people want to work for great people, and not the other way around. And so it's so interesting because like for us, that's ingredient number 1, right? Is that right franchise owner. So, I was so happy we got a chance to meet when we met in Texas. And then I remember you having the cold feet. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast that someone put on, and I think they may have called me out on their podcast. It's a different home service company that I do that they don't need to do that. And it was interesting because like, to me, like, I don't need to do anything. I'm doing that because that's one of the most valuable things we can do is meet with our prospective owners and make a decision if they're fit, and then make a decision on us. Like, I honestly believe maybe had we not met, maybe those cold feet would have got even colder, right? But you knew me, we knew each other. We also have an operations COO who's also very articulate and persuasive to a degree as well. I think you called him a sneaky sales guy.
Yes. But all good operators are. That's a sign of a good operator is that they sell through the way that they execute, and they're confident in that, and that's sales, right? And that's how I operate too. It's funny. And you mentioned something earlier about competition, like the logistics space that I'm in. I think there's like 16,000 companies that do what we do. It's just our team is so focused and dialed in. I've learned so much from them. And just like their attention to detail, obsessing over the customer, like it just works. It's important in any industry, and just showing up and doing what you say you're going to do and doing it very well. I think, it's a little cheesy, but it is so true in a lot of different industries, and it's so true, especially I've seen so far in the home services space is like. That's it. That's how you build your brand and your reputation, and that's how you have happy customers. That's how you grow, and so it's very transferable, and so that's what kind of gave me a little bit more confidence in it too. It's like this stuff is the same. It's just a different service offering, and so you start to get more confident in as you get going, but with anything more experience, but. That's kind of that was my biggest takeaway, especially when I got jumped into it. It was like, okay, I know what to do here. I know how to handle this, and how would I want that to be if I was that customer? And so, my guys operate that way, and they do a great job, and it's kind of helped us get off the ground here.
It's interesting, like, you pay a good amount of money to get especially through some of our lead vendors and programs, you pay a good amount of money for your phone to ring. And so, like, to me, one of the best things you can do is you invest in the revenue generating activities. And so, to me, like, how many jobs are you really getting with water damage that you paid all this money to go to? You can't pop in your car and show up. You know what I mean? GM's there; they're the guys telling them all the technical things, but you're the owner there asking, where are you going to sleep tonight? Are you guys all right? Like, what, being more of the empathetic side. And I think when you go as two, owner and GM, you really showcase a level of service that is so different. So I think that's something that a lot of owners, they see the value in when they do get a job opportunity. I always say, if we're walking in a house with water, you don't close it, something probably went pretty wrong, right? Like they literally had you in your house, in their house. And so, I think it's good that our owners focus on that. That's number one, right? Get the job signed, and there's some ways that we have to do that. Then you go and do a great service.
I agree. I think our sales philosophy is just, we're not selling stuff that people don't need. We sell to people, you can feel good about selling something that somebody needs and solving their problem. And that's gratifying, right? So I think that's the way my guys think about it every time they go knock on somebody's door. It's just like making sure that we're giving them what we need, we're solving their problem, and then, giving them a good experience while we do that. I think that's pretty, it's a pretty good philosophy, especially for this industry, to just do it the right way. And I think that will make us successful in the future. Is the hardest thing to do, or just not selling stuff that people don't need or want, or try to make it work. It's just like people need this stuff, and that's what we're doing. We're helping solving problems and keeping people safe and getting them back in their houses and keeping them clean. So it's pretty cool.
With every business, there's obviously the good side. Here are the good things about the business in terms of how much money you can make, how awesome it can be, how fulfilling it can be. But every business has its hard also. There's challenges, there's issues. What have you found to be the more difficult, more challenging parts of running a Voda franchise, being in the restoration space? I mean, is it more on the hiring side, finding good people? Is it finding the jobs? What's the hard in this business?
I would say a couple things. One being is just being a new business in general. I think access to liquidity, if you don't have it on hand, can be challenging, just because you don't have a couple years worth of tax returns to show somebody, to show the business performance. I think the benefit to doing it, starting with a franchise, is like you get some of that support, but also, you're just a part of a greater network and brand, which helps. I think the other thing is, I don't think that there's a lack of talent or good talent out there. I think the way that it's used, or some of the compensation structures in this industry in the past, create that perception. So I think if you're willing to invest in the right people, and you find the people that want to do it, and you're going to have to invest in them. So I think that, spend a little bit more to get the right people in some cases, and set it up so that it's like it's their business too, is really important. And, like I said earlier, like a lot of this stuff you can teach. I think the restoration side of things is a lot more specialized. There's a lot more technical knowledge with certifications and things that you need to be able to do it successfully and do it the right way. And so finding that talent is a little bit tougher, but I think overall the infrastructure is in place where, if you find the right people, getting them up and running and self-sufficient is a lot easier with, the resources that are available through a franchise. And so that would kind of be, I think I did 12 interviews in a Starbucks in one day in person to find the right person. But again, I had probably 40 or 50 phone calls. Like I was just looking for the right person. It wasn't like there was a lack of people. It was just finding that person that I wanted to partner with to really build this thing out. So those would be the two things that I think stand out to me. And I think being inexperienced, just continue to ask questions and use the network. A lot of the people that I'm working with today or have gotten to know through this experience have been great resources for me to ask questions. I'm by far probably the most inexperienced, but just it's helped me a lot open up to use my network to help me get things done. And then my parents have been a great resource as well, just because they've done it without a franchise. And so they've been a huge help as well.
Everything you've shared has been tremendously helpful, I'm sure, for the audience, and inspirational for people that are looking to buy a franchise, already running a franchise. Thank you for coming on, man. So before we wrap up, is there any parting pieces of wisdom that you want to give to the audience, people that are thinking about buying a franchise, people that are maybe already running a franchise and maybe it's not working as quickly as they maybe would have hoped? Anything at all?
I would just say, like, if you're, I guess, on the fence, just be prepared for it to be, your new hobby. I think if you really have the passion for it, you should jump in and do it. And honestly, but just be prepared for that. I would say, you have to be, I think, a natural leader, to be able to do that. And I think you have to enjoy the suck, if you will, related to starting a new business, not having all the bells and whistles. Like, I think I always say this to people that I work with or I've worked with in the past. Like, there's a lot of people that are franchise quarterbacks where they're exceptional, and no matter what situation you put them in, that's just who they are. But then there's a lot of other people that are system QBs, right? You take them outside of the system that they're in and they're successful in, they can struggle. And so you just have to be able to have that builder mindset, or to be that franchise QB. And I think if that's like naturally what you enjoy, like the building part of it, doing things from scratch, like you're going to do pretty well on this. And you get a head start with the franchise, the franchise support that comes with it. And so I think that is a great way to like really dip your toes into entrepreneurship. And, that would be my, I guess, wisdom. I'm trying to get as much wisdom as I have. So if you guys have any before we part ways, I'd love to hear it. But, for my lack of experience, that would be just my initial takeaway for sure so far.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is, the key is you're giving your people, you got the right people. That's the first thing. You got people, the right people ahead of time. Then you empower them to do the work, and then you're empowering them to make decisions. I'm not in the day-to-day of Voda, but I still have a lot of these small decisions. Like, it's funny. I just had a message come to me with a question. I wrote back, I'm going to turn that question back to you. What do you think we should do? Right. And like, chances are I'm going to go with what you think we should do anyway. Right. Cause you're intimately doing that job. And so like, that's where like I've talked about Travis, like the 1-3-1, like I want people to come to me with one problem, 3 solutions, and the one they think they should go with. And over time, I just want them to go with it. Like, come bring me in on the big decisions that require a lot of head space or challenge, or we don't know what to do. That's where I want to thrive. Or if we have something broken, right, we can't figure out what's wrong, come to me. But, it's when you get your people to understand that you're okay with them making decisions, making mistakes, right? I think that's it sounds like you're probably doing that because you've managed people already for a while, right? You're just applying that to a different space. And like you said, restoration I think it is a logistics business in a lot of ways, right? It's a sales marketing engine, and then it's a logistics business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get into this to, do it myself and babysit people, right? Like you can't build a successful business if the people that work for you or work with you can't do that. They won't ever feel ownership in it. Otherwise they're just order takers, right? Or they're just doing tasks for that logo. Like all of the teams that I've had over the years, like I want my people to own what they do, take real pride in what they do, and then we just operate at a high level and we hold each other accountable. And I think if you can understand their perspective, understand what they need to be successful, you put them in a position to be successful by making the right selection on them, but also like their scope of work that they're responsible for. they're going to do well, because just like, teaching a 5-year-old how to play t-ball, right? Like once they have confidence, like then you can start to see the talent come out. They start to get confident and be able to do it on their own because they've had success. So if you set them up for success, like, and they truly want to be a part of it, they're gonna take ownership of it, and it's ultimately gonna allow you to scale it up, in my opinion. So, it has to feel like it's their company too. Otherwise, it's not gonna be a good long-term fit.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for jumping on. We appreciate you taking some time. If you're listening to this and you're interested in franchise ownership, reach out. If you're interested in a Voda franchise, go to www.myvodafranchise.com. And if you're interested in just, feed guidance or advice on running your current business, you can reach out as well at that same myvodafranchise.com. Thanks again, Travis. Have an awesome, week. Let's all kill it. And we'll see you guys soon.
You're f***ing fired.
If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.